Ladies and gentlemen, today a review of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. The Guardians of the Galaxy franchise has been one of those seminal franchises in the MCU that has really kind of been on its own and hasn't had to really conform to many of the story plots and devices that have been made up for the rest of the MCU. It very much just takes up its own corner of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and I think that's one of the most special things about Guardians of the Galaxy. And James Gunn's style has been so seminal to this franchise. His humor always hits. His use of music within the Guardians of the Galaxy franchise is also, I think, the reason why a lot of other parts of the MCU has kind of used needle drop music and things like that, because he was kind of the first one to really play up that aesthetic. And I have always truly enjoyed the levity that James Gunn always brings to his characters. He always makes sure that all of his characters, every single one of them, have a moment, have an arc, and always have a satisfying conclusion in every film that he has. This movie is no different. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 is such a well-made, thought-out movie. Those characters really deserve to be on their own. And the part of the MCU that they inhabit is theirs, and it's their own. This movie opens up, and kind of the entire thing is really about the story of Rocket. You really understand who Rocket is, even though for a lot of the movie, Rocket's kind of out of commission, for sure. But this is a story about him, and what he means to the Guardians, and what the Guardians mean to each other. I love James Gunn's reverence for his characters. You can see that he truly loves them, and he wants to make sure that they all have moments to really tell the story of themselves and make sure that the audience understands who they are. And that also means showing off their flaws as well as their strengths. In a lot of ways, this entire franchise has really been about that. Showing off characters in their true form. Characters that are not clean cut, but characters who are real, who are realized, and who have good days and bad days, and sometimes they're good people, and sometimes they have to do bad things. We do start this movie right after the Christmas special, and if you haven't watched the Christmas special, you don't have to, but I would definitely look up the Spark Notes on the Christmas special to really kind of get a couple things, because it is kind of important for sure, for at least a couple of the plot points. But something happens at the Guardians' home base where they have to go off into an adventure to go help save Rocket. And through that adventure, they are met with the High Evolutionary. I do think that his characterization was a little bit too pronounced, and sometimes he was screaming a little much, but I really did believe him and the things that he was trying to do. He is very much one of the good kind of villains where you kind of understand what they're wanting to do, and you understand why they're pushing forward and the things they're trying to accomplish. But he's also very unhinged, and there's a moment in the movie where even the people who are working for him also see how unhinged he is. And that performance is just very powerful, for sure. And he is intertwined with Rocket's past in a way that really does fit. And I have to say here that there are moments in this movie that go very dark, and they are part of Rocket's past, and if you've watched the movies, you can kind of get some allusions to exactly what that is and how the High Evolutionary factors into that. But yeah, there are moments that just kind of go deep and dark, with moments of levity and fun for sure in this movie, but there are just a couple moments in this movie where it gets so downtrodden and very, very unexpectedly dark that even I'm kind of still recovering from those moments. I really did enjoy all of this movie, and I appreciate for what everything is done, but there really are some moments that are just really dark, and James Gunn does his best to come back and bring back levity to the story and fun towards the end. And I do think that some people may not be able to recover from those moments, so forewarned, there are some very dark moments in this movie, and they do involve a little bit of animal cruelty, and I don't think that's a complete spoiler to say, and I know some people online have been speculating and talking about that, and it's very much part of that for sure. But the overall intention of this film is to give you something that is a little bit more elevated than the regular Guardians of the Galaxy movie. I do think people who are fans of the Guardians movies and the shtick that they pull off and the fun and levity that they have might be a little disappointed in this one, just because it does have all of that for sure, but it really does dive deep into real emotion and then real conflict that is very elevated for the medium, for sure, and I applaud James Gunn for that. And I think it does elevate comic book movies in that sense for sure, but I also think that those of you who are expecting just a fun comic book romp are going to be a little disappointed in that. But in the end, this is a remarkable film and everyone is great in it. Bautista as Drax is the best I've ever seen him. He has a moment and a chemistry with Mantis that is just great. And Mantis and him have a really good relationship, and that gets played out. And then Gamora and Peter Quill, he really gave you ending and a really satisfying meeting between those two. And I think it actually ends well and ends real, right? It ends like it actually would end if that situation was occurring with two people, for sure. I've always loved how James always wrote Peter Quill as if he was a child, because he did leave Earth as a kid, and his sensibilities about life haven't really matured with him since he was been living with aliens his whole life. He definitely still has kind of a childhood ignorance to him that really does play up and play off for the humor that Peter Quill, Star-Lord, is and who he is and plays off, but it really works here. And then the ultimate conclusion of Rocket Raccoon's origin and really big arc is just masterfully done. You can tell that he just sowed the seeds for that throughout the entire franchise, and he really delivers here. This is such a more elevated movie than any regular Guardians Galaxy that I think therein lies my biggest criticism, is that it does have the fun and the music and the humor that hits, but it definitely hits in a very kind of ultra-realistic and dark way every once in a while that I think is going to turn some people off. And every once in a while, the plot does become a little clunky. There's just a lot of plots happening, and they're all happening at the same time. And it's a little difficult to kind of figure things out because the pacing is so fast here. But ultimately, I was absolutely floored with how well done this movie was, and possibly, I think, is probably my most perfect movie of the year. Absolutely. I give Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 8/10 out of 10. A nearly perfect piece of cinematic movie making. I will say that those of you Guardians of the Galaxy fans who love the humor and the music are going to have fun here, but I think you might be a little disappointed with how real and how kind of dark some of the scenes get here. Be forewarned. There are moments that I am still trying to recover from, because James Gunn does his best to make sure that his characters feel real. And I think therein lies my biggest criticism. You're going to come out of this movie having a great, wonderful time, but you're also going to be coming out of the theater thinking, wow, that got deep and a little dark. And I think some people will be turned off by that, but ultimately, I think this is one of those comic book movies that is just more elevated and has character drama and character sense that not a lot of comic book movies even try to do. James Gunn always makes sure that every single one of his characters in his ensemble has their moments and has their arc, and this movie is the conclusion to all of them. A fantastic film, a fantastic time at the movies. Please go watch it at the biggest screen possible. Maybe don't take your kids, but a great time. Thank you so much for watching. If you've watched all the way to the end, thank you. It's been a minute. I apologize. My life is changing, which is a good thing, let me tell you. I am going to start to do some lives. If you're all the way here, I appreciate that. I want to say some news. In the next week, I am going to start doing some live movie news reactions. Meaning, I've decided that I'm going to go live and I'm just going to read through all of the movie news trades and just do live reactions to all of them. Maybe read some articles here and there and just kind of give my take on things. Just some way of me trying to kind of capitalize on the live, because I do need to get on that bandwagon for sure. Please like, comment, subscribe. I will do my best to get back to everyone's comment as soon as possible. Thank you so much for watching.